Hey guys, welcome to the podcast where we do the thing that you know us for because that's what we do. Unless this is your first one, then I guess you don't. Oh my god. Fucking shoot me, dude.
That would be against the law.
Not for everyone. Didn't you know? If you became the president, then you could shoot me if you wanted to. And you could just do that. That's a constitutional fact right there. I'm pretty sure we've already worked that
Awesome.
out.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's
Um like I intentionally do bad intros, but that one was just like really bad. Like I'm not. That is just over the top. Because
okay.
we're in like we're in chill mode because there's not a lot happening around PU, but
Yeah.
we're gonna be like starting starting that like next generation any day now. I'm sure it's close. It's a bit over a month. That's not so bad.
Yeah. It's the off season now, so I think it's understandable that we don't have much to talk about or do or stuff.
Yeah, thanks to Sakurai, I can count all the days until we get PU on two hands. Half the people will get that, and then half the people will be like, "What?" It doesn't matter. I'm not gonna explain it anyway. I pulled up these LTPL games since there was LTPL finals. There's also a tie break, so technically we'll have like one final LTPL game next week, unless the other two games that aren't PU finish first and one team wins. I don't think any of them are like too crazy, but they're worth briefly hitting. And then I guess this classic, but we don't really have a lot to say about that yet. Anyway,
Yeah. It's none of the tours are that well. They are deep into it at the moment, but I mean, like, it's like
this
it
yeah,
isn't
it's
really.
it's a
It
bunch
isn't.
of
Yeah.
individual. Anyway, I want to explicitly sell you guys on how boring and irrelevant this podcast will be because there's absolutely nothing, and I want you guys to know that straight up. So then you'll tune out, and then you'll miss us like actually talking about the meta, and that way I'll know more than you. That's how you run a podcast, but then you also keep things to yourself. You just tell people not to listen.
Right. 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 I'm sure that'll work.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure no one's listening right now because I already said how boring it's gonna be. Anyway, LST played Luthier. I'm pretty sure you either made or helped LST make his team, right?
Um, I don't think I helped or made anything,
Oh,
but it's heavily inspired
okay. He was saying it
from
was heavily
my.
inspired. Fine, fair
Yeah.
enough. Which, like, yeah, it's got a Trick Room Jellicent. It's got like the Eel Pharaoh. It's got a Kanga Volley slept on there. There's a Kadabra in the last slot, which is more my thing. But even then, yeah, like that's a very Hajad looking team of like bulky balance Kanga Breaker with spikes. Um, Compared to Luthier's slightly more offensive Simi balance with spikes. I do like
Yeah.
this meta. I really do. But they're both going for very similar things. It's like okay, whatever. Kadabra can be pretty cool in this matchup. Trigger Jellicent can be pretty cool in this matchup. But like, so could some Torterra sets. And Simisear is obviously a massive threat because it just bloom dooms through your Jellicent, and that's real fun.
Yeah.
Like they're both kind of trying to do their basic plans. I'll start it off like, oh, I'm gonna lead with my thing and hit a damage move, and then go hard Torterra or go hard Ferroseed. Luthier actually opts to just like immediately break the Ferroseed though, which does make the game a lot more interesting, I think, because um,
Yeah, because he needs to do that because, well, if he didn't break the Pharisee and started to play around it with the Simisip, every time if he brings in Regirock,
yeah,
it's going to be a free spike. So
exactly,
yeah,
and
he needs to get rid of the Pharisee ASAP.
yeah, this game could have been a lot slower. I think like very
Yeah.
like reminiscent of it was TJ versus I think it was TJ versus LST in semis last week where LST literally just clicked Pharaoh like 80 turns. They were just he's just like, oh, I'm gonna hard switch into Pharaoh. Oh, I'm gonna hard switch into Pharaoh. And Luthier kind of gets around all that like messing around. Just oh no, I'm gonna kill this now. Which yeah,
Yep.
that's sure.
Yeah. That's
Man, no
potentially
one
what you
runs
have to do.
T-Bolt Silvally anymore. Anyway, this is Spike, but LST kind of gets to still pivot around. Here's the Kadabra doing a big crit, which is pretty big. Like he wouldn't have been able to 2 KO that. That's just like a nice momentum gain that he did not need to have, but then he was given. So that was pretty
Yeah, no
cool.
rocks as well.
Yeah. Luthier's definitely not out of it though. It's just like as they keep trading, you keep noticing more and more that this Trick Room Jellicent is really good, and LSD doesn't even save it for late game. He Trick Rooms real early, as like Luthier tries to hard pivot in his Semi-Seer for some reason, I guess, and like things start dropping because Trick Room Jellicent was just real nice versus team because he sacked the Torterra.
Hmm.
And that really is it. Like that Torterra had synthesis, but he sacked it to kill LST's Silvally Fairy and died to recoil, and then he lost after that because Jellicent good.
Yep. Um, that's I guess the thing with Trick Room Jellison is that it can function as like a mid game breaker. Even though this game was getting towards the end when it eventually set up, you get like three turns of just violence where you can just break through a game and like turn a 4v4 into like a 4v1 or a 4v2, and then you can just pile on the pressure. It's a really good. TR blob mons in general are really good in this meta.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we only really have two of them, unless you count like a random Behem or something. But yeah, they're pretty cool, and it maybe shouldn't have been quite this strong, but like Torterra dropped, and it's just I'm gonna hit the Jellicent button and win. This game also has a Jellicent button, but it's not going to go quite the same way. It's Tasker versus Star, which was definitely a pretty interesting matchup going in because every time we get like a Rexus versus Star or a Tasker versus Star, that's always fun to see. Let me not have my computer plugged in. Uh, Tasker got Blob and Star has his own Blob, and they both got some
Yeah,
teams around their Blobs.
yeah. This is the blob wars. I think that's what we're gonna have to call the meta now. It's just blob wars.
Yeah, I think we said last week that like God, we need better boosting sweepers because right now it's all blobs, and these guys they're like, "Yep, I wanted a win con, so I got a blob. I heard you like blobs, so I made your blob. I'm not even gonna go and do that. Point is, they've got like balance-ish teams with fat rocker and some pivots and some breakers, and then a blob to clean up because like that's the best cleaner that we have. Trick room blobs.
Yeah, I thought actually it's something that we'll see later in the game is the Mashana versus Jellison blob wars that's gonna end up
Yeah.
ensuing. That's actually really funny to be honest.
Yeah, blob wars are. I liked that. Anyway, Silvally led versus Primate. Eventually, someone's gonna get gunked, but it hasn't happened yet. So we still just keep leading Silvally versus Primate. It just happens. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Tasker actually multi-attacks. Normally, I'd just see the Silvally pivot out immediately. So I guess he was afraid
Yeah,
to
he's
come.
probably scared of the Defiant or like Choice Band or something.
Yeah, something like that. Um, but anyway, early on, bit of a rocks trade, bit of like just fairly normal, kind of playing around each other, feeling each other out. Tasker eventually gets the Drampa in for the kill, which is what he wants. Um, Star hasn't really pulled off a lot yet, but he does manage to chip the Tort down and then have it in primary roll range, but then he doesn't risk the roll, which was a little disappointing, but probably the better play.
Yeah.
Like they're both fishing for things. Star wanted that Torterra dead because that makes the Jellicent a lot better. Now he just like kind of wants to pick up another kill or two with something like Semi-Seer, which is actually a lefties Semi-Seer, not super common. I assume it was probably some kind of subset.
Yeah, it's sub nasty.
It's a subset of the subsets of Semi-Seers, but unfortunately, that AV Drampa just taking a Focus Blast really, really useful for Tasker.
Yep.
Hard to overstate. Like that was just real good. That AV Drampa lived to hit.
Yeah, it had to. That was really important for the game.
Yeah, and from there, there's not a lot for Star to do in terms of breaking. He kind of just has to trick room and try. But Tasker's got his own Z trick room thing, and that is basically what gives him the game right here. He happened to be the slow blob instead of the faster blob.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
so
not the only
bullshit
thing.
too.
There were a lot of other things. Tasker played well around Star's stuff, and he was ready for like I'm gonna check the semis here, and he played well. But like ultimately, that was the big end game defining interaction. Um,
Yeah, I thought that was quite funny because usually you don't see an interaction like this where it's like one of the blobs setting up Trick Room. Because usually, as I said, I'm sure Star Master was playing with that entire like mentality that I have Jellison. Jellison does a lot of work versus Tasker's team. If I get rid of the Dramper, I get rid of the Dramper, so
and the
Jellison's
Torterra,
gonna
yeah.
do work. And then yeah, it's like the Mashana comes in. And I'm sure he's thinking it's like some calm mindset or
Yeah, like
whatever.
you Star just might not have known. The end game does get interesting though, because Mishana still has to be the one to beat the Primeape and the Eel, unless it's a Chople Omastar, which maybe we don't know. And it kind of gets into this whole Moonlight stalling, trying to trick room. Like there are a lot of full paras. Star gets the Mishana to literally one Moonlight left, um, but after coming down to the wire, he's able to set up the trick room and then kill the things. And then obviously, like even if Mishana gets fully paralyzed here, Omastar is going to outspeed Primeape under trick room. So could have been still dangerous just because Star was not weak to Omastar at all. And that was kind of something that Tasker was stuck with in the late game. Like again, maybe if it was Chople or something. I actually don't know if Chople lives close combat from Primeape after a smash. Or actually, maybe if it was Enduro Star, I guess that actually might have been an okay sweeper. But like for the most part, Star's really good versus it, and Tasker played this whole game with the dead slot and managed to still come on top. So that's not nothing at all.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you for your stellar commentary, Jen.
No worries, bro. I mean, there's not really much to add beyond what you've said, apart from that. Like, yeah, Tasker did what he needed to do, and I guess Star Master wasn't aware that Mashana did this thing.
Mm-hmm. He needed to do it, and then he did it, and then Star was like, "Oh, that did that," so then he did the do.
It's kind of yeah. I thought that was a weird interaction because it's especially weird because Star Master unknowingly like set up Tasker, which is quite funny to me.
Yeah, he set up Trick Room for Tasker. I
For
mean,
Tasker.
I guess he at least made Tasker waste the Z move so that Eel could like take a while smacking at it, but that's about it. And that pretty much covers PU news. Like I said, there is Classic still going on. That's going to be fun to keep taking looks at. Like it's not that there's nothing interesting with Classic. There's just it's not really worth analyzing the games that are happening right now, um, and it's still
Yeah,
kind
plus I
of
think some of the
in the middle
yeah.
of what's going on. So we'll probably pay more attention during playoffs. I'm actually just gonna like pull up some of the threads. Oras is in semis right now, and I was a little surprised to see. I think someone who I like I don't recognize at all in semis. But other than that,
Yeah, I think the thing is with PU classics in general, smaller tours like this, like forum tours, are the quality of games. They're not really as high as like team tours or official tournaments or anything like that. So
yeah, they're not super. It's still interesting and not nothing, but like they're pretty interesting. Oh, I see. Yeah, it's this Rahel Gamer guy who just like hacks LST, so he's in semis. Uh, that's what I'm seeing. Yeah, there's Rahel Gamer versus Chris Loud and Ham versus TJ. I'm sorry, I just left a ham off his name. It's Ham. I said Ham. Yeah, there's that. There's the Black White PU Cup in quarterfinals. Um, a lot of generally interesting matchups. Like I'm still in there, Ziri's still in there, Eva Guerrero's still in there. But then there's also some other people I don't know, like Tier, Tack is there, who I do know, but like isn't typically up there. And then DPP is even further back, only on round 3. So there's a lot of terrible people still in there. And also some people I recognize, like Drud and Sergio and Ziri. I don't know. That's your classic recap. Hell yeah. We did it.
yeah, I'm especially looking forward to playoffs because generally that'll be when you see the most like or most people trying to like gain an advantage. People who know the tiers trying
Mhm.
to gain an advantage on one another, so that they can win the tour. So playoffs should
You
be
just
fun.
get more interesting games. I feel like a lot of this
Yeah,
is just recycling, kind of like figuring out the tiers, and then once you're in playoffs, maybe there's a couple people who kind of like just went through one open, not super solid in all of them, but yeah, it'll get more interesting then. Nothing else has really happened in PU. Smogon stuff's chugging along, like OST is starting, there's tiering, but we don't really be part of that for a while. So I think
yeah,
that just about covers it. Like really, there's more activity in like our in-game channel than our Sun and Moon PU discussion because people are kind of just like done playing the new gen, waiting for Sword and Shield to start up, and I'm fine with that. Um, is there any chance that you have like a new gimmick that you wanted to share or shout out or anything? Or
actually, yeah. I don't think you would mind me telling the world this, but I played a test game earlier today with Telenet when I was up at ungodly hours. Well, actually, no, it wasn't ungodly. It's ungodly for my stand. Um, you know, I'm not usually up at 11 a.m. Well,
oh,
not up at 11 a.m.
oh,
I mean,
early.
like, yeah, I
And
was
when
up
I say
early. It was
early, I
like,
mean like midday, and by that point, I've done like a bunch of homework. But sure, early.
yeah, no, that's exactly what was happening. Like, I'd actually done a bunch of work by midday, and I was like, oh shit, I've done some work. And then when I went on PS, I played against Leonard test game. He just randomly challenged,
Mm-hmm.
and he was using this weird
How do you know he?
camera
How do
up
you know
set.
he? Wait. How do you know he'll be fine?
Oh, because the meta's finished. He said, I'm sad nobody's. I'm not allowed. I'm not going to be able to use the or use this set. So I might as well give him some credit for it.
I guess I'll trust you then. Sure. Okay.
So yeah, it was a weird camera upset where it was a weird interaction in the game where I had a Sylvani water and I parting shotted on the camera up and he was like very angry because he wanted me to surf it and I was like, oh, why did you want me to surf it?
Cause
And
what? It's
turns
Pasho
out it was
something.
like Spadef Z Solar Beam.
Okay.
Yeah, so the idea more so the idea is to bait in the Jellison than use the Solar Beam it
Yeah, but like
and then it
Spadef
dies.
specifically, are you still living like a
Not
Hydro from Trick
not
Room? Oh well, I guess
not entirely Spadef.
if it's Trick Room, you're faster, and if it's like defensive Scald, then you'll take the hit.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Does Z
that's
Solar
exactly
Beam actually kill Jellison? I don't even want to bother to calc, but like if it's fat utility Jellison, oh well, I guess we're running Fizdef more than Spadef, so like Fizdef probably dies. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's like a silly bait thing, but sure, why not? I don't see why not.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was
seems fine.
he had an interesting idea with like Triss Banded Primate and luring the Jellison and that type of stuff,
Hmm.
which was quite cool. I
Yeah,
did like his team.
cool enough. Okay,
So yeah,
sure. I'm just surprised you actually had something. Who
yeah.
who
Though I
playing?
wouldn't have had something if you'd asked me yesterday, but
Fair enough.
we do have something now.
Yeah, I don't have any new things either. All my team builder looks so weird now. I'm used to all my top teams being like, oh, here's the new PU stuff I'm messing with, and now all the new stuff I've imported is like Ubers and NFE and Little Cup and DPPPU and all this random stuff I'm playing, just waiting for the new gen.
Yeah, I mean, the last PU team that I built was literally the team that I used versus Rexes. I've literally not used anything since.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Not having not built for a while. Oh, it feels so good. I love this game. I hate building. God damn. Like I'm
Yeah,
playing all
I
these
mean,
random tours and I'm not building for any of them. I just get to like go play games with teams that I think like are good or at least like trust, but like I get to play the game without having to put in all that work beforehand and it's so much fun, dude.
yeah,
Anyway, um for the record, we'll have a VR update out by the next Untier talk, the like final one for this gen where we're just going to, move things after like it's clear it wasn't really clear before LTPL certain things like maybe we should move Kadabra higher. Maybe Simisear should be A plus instead of like B plus. Um, just like a final catch up. I don't think any of the noms will end up being like, or any of the changes. I don't think will be crazy controversial, but maybe there'll be something pretty whack. And either way, we'll be able to go over that. There'll be one more tiebreaker game. We might update on Classic again. Who knows? Like until it's playoffs, whatever. And I think that about covers it for PU news. Don't forget to tip your waiter. Never follow politics, and we'll see y'all
Wait,
next
wait,
week.
wait, wait. What is this? What is this about? Waiter tip and stuff. I heard a lot of there's a lot of commotion about that type of stuff.
What? I have no idea what you're talking about. That's just a phrase people say. Don't forget to tip your waiter. Like when you're done with something, or sometimes they'll change it. Like don't forget to tip your ex. It's like a phrase.
Oh,
I don't know if there's
okay.
an actual commotion, but
Honestly,
every so often you see like asshole people going, "Well, I never tip because tipping's silly," and that's like a real thing. Some people will bring up, and then like a bunch of people shout at them for being assholes. But aside from that, I've never seen like controversy
I
about
mean,
tipping people.
yeah,
Unless
I mean,
unless
it's
you're
kind of
tipping
bullshit to be
cows,
honest.
that's pretty shitty. Don't do that. What cows ever do?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of weird how in America there's like a separate minimum wage for.
Yeah. Okay. If you saw that, that might have been it. People talking about look at how bad the minimum wage is. Like when we hit the new year, everyone was like looking back at how the minimum wage hasn't changed even as inflation goes up. And then people were talking about, well, look at it's even worse for people that get tips. They have a lower minimum wage, which yeah, that's a thing. But we're not going to get into that.
That's a different
Maybe
whole
one of
other.
these weeks where there's absolutely nothing. Like not next week there'll be the VR update and the last week LTPL. After that, this can be like absolutely nothing. I'll just tell you about American politics for like 2 hours.
That sounds good to me. I don't mind that.
Okay, guys, put that on your put that on your calendar. Write it into your congressman. Request it in the comments, and maybe I'll consider doing a politics talk. This is a complete joke. I would never do that because like this represents the tier, and I wouldn't do that to you people. We've actually managed to stretch this past 20 minutes, I think. Woo!
Sweet.
All right, well that's it then. We did it. We get to go now. Let's all go home.